Friday Night Lights at Carter Finley Stadium as the Wolfpack welcome Louisville into town. Dennis Cox sitting in for Adam Gold this afternoon to help us preview tonight's matchup. We turn over to our good friend Cory Smith, editor, Pack Pride, joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. All right, Cory, a lot of people might sit there and say, hey, you know what, NC State, they're 3-1 on the season. Yeah, they lost to Notre Dame, but there's no shame in losing to a program like Notre Dame. But this 3-1 doesn't feel like there's not a lot of optimism moving forward with this 3-1 Wolfpack squad. Does that change at any point tonight if they get a win against Louisville?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. Like, as much as we've talked about, the fact that the offense has struggled and, even though they've won 3 games, you put together a complete effort. The complimentary football that Dave Jordan always pitches, and they feel like, hey, no matter how you win, those are wins. Well, if you find a way to battle and win this game, regardless of how you do it, yeah, that's going to be. I mean, there's going to be some serious optimism coming out of this one, even if you win it, in similar fashion to what you've done against UVA and UConn. The issue is neither one of those opponents were, really that good, and they haven't looked any better, outside of games that have played against NC State. I mean, both of them are absolutely defeated right now. Neither one of them have won a game, so it's not a great look when you only score 24 points against those teams. I think that's kind of the difference right now. You find a way to win this game, and suddenly you can put a little bit more respect on your name regardless of what happens. And I think the team comes out of it with a little more confidence too, because as much as they've said, well, we're 3-1, like we should be happy about that. I mean, you don't get a lot of confidence from this offense right now where they feel like they're, complete at this point either.
I think you hit the nail on the head. By Cory Smith, editor of Pack Pride, joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. I think you hit the nail on the head in regards to coaches saying, hey, yeah, you know what? A ugly win's a win. It's better than looking pretty and losing. But you mentioned the confidence of this team. Yeah, 3-1, but I'm sure they're probably sitting there scratching the head wondering, hey, you know what? There's a lot more that we're capable of doing. At least we thought that going into this season.
Yeah, and on the offensive side of the football right now, it's really just trying to find who those playmakers are. I mean, that was a constant that we talked about throughout spring and fall camp. It was trying to develop who's going to be the next guys. I mean, you've had Thayer Thomas for years. You had Emeka Emezi before that. You had Kelvin Harmon, Jacoby Myers before that. Like, those were the guys. You didn't really know who was going to be the guy going into this year, and everything that we heard throughout camp was, Kevin Concepcion was going to be the guy, and it's like, well, all right, you're going to depend on a true freshman?
Yeah.
I guess that's the go-to, and so far, he's, I believe, second or third in the ACC right now in terms of receptions with 22. Just had 2 big plays against UVA this past week to kind of get that confidence for him. 2 touchdowns in that game, over 100 yards. So, I think that the big thing right now in finding confidence is developing other players outside of him. Is it Juice Vereen? Is it Bradley Rosner, as far as the receivers, and then getting the ground game going. Like the ground game outside of here's a stat for you. Outside of the VMI game, in terms of the 2 lead backs that are still with the team, with Michael Allen and Kendrick Raphael, they've had a combined 107 total rushing yards between those 2. So that's not going to get it done, and that's something that they need to find and develop tonight as well.
Well, you're talking about development. I think this team has yet to develop Cory, tell me if I'm wrong. I think this team has failed to develop an identity on their offense. No one knows what their offense actually is. I don't think they do either.
No, they don't. I think that's the big thing is, and I kind of bring it back to, I know a lot of people want to put all the blame on either Robert and I or Brennan Armstrong, but I think a big part of it, too, is just not having the protection to get things going the way they want to.
Yeah.
They try to force things on the ground, and they can't seem to get it going, so then they try to go through the air, and they can't get the time to let plays develop. They can't get the types of plays they want to run. I've put some blame on Brennan Armstrong, maybe scrambling out of the pocket a little bit too early at times, but at the same time, you don't have a ton of confidence that you're going to be able to stand in the pocket without getting hit. You don't have a ton of confidence in your receivers when they're dropping footballs. So I think the big thing right now is trying to develop a more balanced identity right now, which is something they desperately want to do. And I think that's going to have to come with the ground game getting going, because it's hard to hit shots over the top when everybody's playing high safeties on you because they know that you can't run the football.
For a second, I thought you were talking about the Carolina Panthers there. For a moment, in terms of their offense, a lot of similarities. Cory Smith, editor, Pack Pride, joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Dennis Cox sitting in for Adam Gold. You look at the defense, though. The defense has been stout. The defense has been as tough as nails as it's ever been, including recent seasons, even though they've lost guys like Drake Thomas and Tanner Ingold, some of these other guys that we've seen be stalwarts for this defense. But eventually this defense can only do so much. Eventually going to wear out. Much like we saw against Notre Dame, there's only so much the defense can do during the course of 60 minutes.
Yeah, and that was assisted by some untimely turnovers for NC State as well on their side of the field, and handing the ball right back over. So that certainly didn't help. But yeah, I mean, this defense has been really, really good. I think the one issue that they've ran into is allowing too many explosive plays, and Tony Gibson has harped on that the past several weeks in terms of trying to get guys to play more fundamental football, not to give up those big explosive plays. But when you have guys like Peyton, I mean, at every level they have a guy that's experienced that kind of keeps the team together. Davin Vann along the defensive line, Savion Jackson, C.J. Clark, all those guys have been here for years. Peyton Wilson in the linebacker core, the only holdover, but they've got some experience there as well. So I think the big thing for them right now, as I have a tractor passing me right now, sorry about that.
It's all good.
But, the big thing for NC State right now is finding, getting some younger players to kind of elevate their game as well on the defensive side of the football to really be able to hold down this Louisville offense that has, just a ton of explosive players. And I believe right now leads the ACC in overall yardage per game with over 530 per game.
That's a lot of yards, and it's going to put a lot of stress on those guys that you mentioned, Van, Jackson, including Peyton Wilson as well. Cory Smith, Pack Pride, give him a follow on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days, at @RCory Smith. Enjoy the game tonight, good sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Dennis. I appreciate you.